What's up everyone, we are back at it with another react, and this time this video will actually feature me quite a lot. How Armada mastered Melee's Counterpick meta. I have not seen this video myself, but I know a lot of people have been interested about, like Counterpick decisions and stuff over the years. And this video was also recommended to us, so let's check it out. And I'll try to give as much insight as possible to my decisions over the years and possibly other things that's going to be included in this video. So let's check it out.
Throughout the history of Melee, character identity has been a defining factor in how players present themselves. Rallying behind a specific character and using them to express yourself in-game is one of the greatest attributes Melee has to offer. But what happens when your character just can't do it in a matchup? How do you solve a character crisis and apply your identity to a new fighter? One player in Melee's history managed to overcome such eternal dilemmas with expert gameplay and fundamental character knowledge. Today we will be exploring Armada's iconic character counterpick saga throughout his illustrious career in Melee. In August 2010, Armada attended the highly prestigious Apex 2010, and after a shocking performance at Genesis, all eyes were on him to take the event. However, when he got there, he faced a demon in his bracket that would haunt him until his eventual retirement in 2018, Hungrybox. HBox completely demolished Armada, beating him 2-0 in Winners Round 5 and again in Grand Finals 3-0. Hungrybox displayed an arduous, back-air-heavy style that stuffed out everything Armada could possibly do in the matchup, and left Armada wondering exactly how Peach could ever possibly beat Jigglypuff.
Alright, so the Bowser laugh, obviously funny. So, okay, so going over a little bit, like, I obviously play against Mango at Genesis 1, and overall, our games were kind of back and forth in the Peach Puff matchup. I think most people would agree that wasn't Mango's best matchup as Puff. He clearly was better in a lot of other matchups. So it's kind of close, even like, going into Genesis 1, even before Genesis 1, playing Peach Puff in Europe. I was never the biggest fan of the matchup, probably not to anyone's surprise. So even though like after Genesis 1, I felt like, this matchup is not good, I was hoping I could still make it work. And then me and Hungrybox, we didn't play at either Genesis 1 because he lost twice to Mango. And then at Pound 4, I lost to Silent Spectre and Amsa, right? I played some friendlies with Hungrybox at Pound 4 and did pretty well. But, I mean, it was friendlies and 6 months prior to this tournament, which was Apex 2010, right? And as was stated, I did lose 2-0 in winner semis because best of 5 wasn't standard at the time, until like sometimes even winners finals. So it's pretty crazy, but that's how things were back then. So yeah, I lost 5-0, and only really like one of those games, from what I remember, was like in my favor. I think it was like first game in Grands, and I had a solid lead but got rested. So yeah. This was like pretty much like, all right, my suspicion was I should not have like played this matchup, but now I feel even more confident about it, pretty much.
Tucked between his legs, he left seeking answers to what he would call an absolutely unwinnable matchup at the highest level of play. If Peach couldn't get the job done, instead of resigning to give up against a specific player due to their character choice, Armada decided to pick up a character to use specifically against Hungry.
Yeah, okay, so before we go into the Young Link arc as well, I will say that, I haven't seen the most, of course, with Laud, but I've seen a little bit of Laud playing the matchup, and obviously he's, really good at it. I still think it's a very tough matchup for Peach, especially if the Puff is like really willing to camp it out, taking it to time, and, fully playing the matchup. I still feel that, even though Laud, of course, much better against Puff with Peach than I ever was. I still feel like if you want to be number 1 in the world, I would not recommend it. Do I believe Laud, possibly other Peaches, could take a set? Yes. Do I believe they even could, take a few? Probably. But do I think it's worth it if you want to be number 1? I don't believe so. I don't believe so. And you are more than free to disagree. You might feel like, the matchup isn't, that bad. You absolutely could win like at least 60-70% of the sets. That's your opinion, if that's the case, right? And you're absolutely allowed to have that. I personally do not believe it is the best course of action if you want to be the best in the world. And I mean, I've talked about this in other type of videos as well regarding like Lef and Cody, their approach to Mar, for example. Sometimes it might not even matter if it's like an objective answer, this is better or this is not. It also depends on the player, right? If you don't believe this matchup is going to be worth it, you don't believe this is going to bring you the best success, then you shouldn't do it. That's part of my approach as well. It's not like, can you squeeze out some win? It's how do you get the most amount of wins? So, yeah.
Box's Jigglypuff, and tier list be damned. At the time that Armada chose his Young Link counterpick against Jigglypuff, Young Link was the number 17th character on the tier list, putting him at the very bottom of E tier, the last character in the mid tiers before the low tier area begins. Jigglypuff was solidly in the number 3 spot on the tier list, her abilities having been showcased by both Mango and Hungrybox throughout the 2 years prior. Even though there was a huge disparity in their placements on the tier list, Young Link was known to have a decent matchup against all floaty characters in the game, being able to spam them with projectiles and killing them off the top with a bomb throw into down air hit confirm on most stages. Additionally, floaty characters have a difficult time dealing with Young Link's follow-ups off grab and annoying nair pokes, and they die surprisingly early to almost all his kill moves.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, like, people that did play Young Link at the time probably, like, knew he was, like, doing better against Puff, Peach, Samus, and so on, compared to, like, maybe Spaceys, for example. But I don't really think it was, like, common knowledge by any means. It was, like, essentially no one played, you know, those type of characters. The community was also way smaller, obviously. But yeah, I mean, I totally believe that the people that did play, you know, these rare characters, they probably realized that it's like closer than against Spaceys, for example. But yeah, I don't think it was really common knowledge. This might be, you know, included in the video as well. But yeah, just to explain, some people probably have already heard it, but in case not, basically my idea for picking Young Link here was more like I couldn't really get proper practice versus Puff. Essentially, I could never play the matchup, practice the matchup. So I basically figured if I can't practice against Puff, I don't want Hungrybox in this case to be able to practice against my character, or at least not easily, right? It's going to be, of course, easier for him to like find a Fox player or a Marth player or whatever other top tier it might be, right? So basically, like Young Link was one of the few characters where I felt like might be good enough in the matchup while also being hard to come by in terms of practice. And I actually was inspired by Tonberry for a bit. He was an old school Norwegian player, Falco player in particular. But he did play Young Link at a Swedish tournament. I think it was something like his controller broke or something like that, and he's decided to like mess around with Young Link. He had a good Young Link, and I did remember seeing him play against like some Peach players and stuff, and performing like, you know, better than probably a lot of people expected. So I was like, I want to give it a shot, and I did.
Young Link can also abuse floaty characters' inability to land and recover quickly by spamming projectiles and sharking with aerials. Despite choosing a character much lower on the tier list than his main Peach, Armada had full faith in Young Link's ability in the matchup, and was planning to pull out the character-specific counterpick during his next outing against Hungrybox. Armada trained his Young Link stealthily in Sweden, keeping the secondary hidden away and swearing all of his countrymen to secrecy in order to catch Hungrybox completely off guard the next time they met in bracket. And it worked! Armada debuted his Young Link counterpick at Pound 5 in winner's quarters, and he beat Hungrybox 2-0, a player he previously had been unable to take a game from at Apex 2010. Armada exhibited brutal matchup knowledge, forcing Hungrybox to approach by camping the top platform and constantly pulling bombs and utilizing Young Link's plethora of projectiles. Additionally, unlike Peach, Young Link is extremely difficult for Jigglypuff to edgeguard, as his up B covers his entire body and has a massive amount of priority.
Yeah, to fill in here as well, like, yes, it was, you know, I was telling people about the Young Link in Sweden, basically saying that we keep this secret in order to, like, increase the chance of this counterpick to work. We should keep it as a surprise. And also it was kind of like, you know, a fun factor as well, because who could see that coming, right? If someone was like going into Pound 5, like he might test a different character, you know, maybe some people could see it, right? But who could see it being a character like young Link, right? So I basically told people, don't tell anyone. Of course, early on when I picked young Link, no one really believed in this pick. It was like, this character is trash. That was actually what a lot of people, essentially every single person was like, yeah, no, this is a terrible idea. And then after a few games, it was like, yeah, no, young Link destroys Puff. Like, this matchup is like, so bad for Puff. I was like, a few minutes ago, this was a terrible idea. Now it's like a clearly winning matchup, apparently. But yeah, I mainly, like, the few chances I got, I tried to practice against Hack. Old school Swedish Smasher. He was actually sitting right next to me during Grants at Apex 2012. So yeah, he was the person I was like trying to practice the matchup with. He lived across the country though, so I did not get to practice with him much. But yeah, huge shout out to Hack. These games were obviously not fun for him, but he had a good Puff. He was the kind of player that was good with all characters in the game. And he essentially swapped character like tourney to tourney. So he helped me out as much as he could. So much appreciated, of course. And he got really good at the matchup. A lot of people might not know this. I'm not even sure if it was included in the metagame. It might have been. I don't remember because it's been a long time since I watched it. But basically, we did play at a Swedish tournament. This was maybe, I don't know, like 4 or 5 months or something before Pound 5. And it was actually really close in Game 3. It was a best of 5, but Game 3 went down to like last hit. And then eventually I won 3-1. Probably his patience ran out more than mine. But that was like a close set. But it was not recorded, I think. Or at the very least, it was not uploaded. Until way after, if it ever got uploaded. I don't think it did. Also, like, recording sets was just like way more rare back in like 2010, right? But yeah, he helped me out a lot in the matchup. So when I played against Hungrybox the first time, he didn't really know the matchup at all. So it wasn't like as close as some people maybe would have expected. At the time, Hack was actually harder just due to like knowing like how to play the matchup. But eventually HBox got better at it, of course. Like analyzing matches, practice matchup more. But yeah, let's move on.
The saga of Armada's Young Link continued at Apex 2012, where the two would face off in one of the longest Grand Finals resets of all time. The two sets showcased exceptional top-level zoning, projectile spam, and platform camping from Armada to force Hungrybox to choose his spots through an arduous battle of attrition. The grueling 9 games featured 4 timeouts, while the clock ran abysmally low on the other 5 games. Although the games were much closer this time around, with Hungrybox even taking the first set to force a reset in the bracket, it was clear that Armada's Young Link had his number. What happened at their next head-to-head matchup was perhaps even more shocking than Armada choosing Young Link to begin with. At Apex 2013 in Winners Round 6, Hungrybox and Armada faced off yet again, but this time Hungrybox called for a double-blind character pick, meaning that both characters had to lock into their characters before the match began. Armada chose Young Link, as he had been wont to do for all of their head-to-heads since Apex 2010. However, Hungrybox had a new trick up his sleeve. Following Armada's lead at picking a character lower down the tier list, Hungrybox opted to lock in his Ness as a counterpick to Armada's Young Link. Although the matchup isn't particularly great for Ness, sometimes you want to play against the player and not the character on the screen. While he put up a valiant effort, Hungrybox's Ness was not able to close out a game against the Young Link.
Yeah, okay, so I mean, this arc was actually like kind of funny. Like, just looking back at it, imagine like what players, that played like many years prior, let's say during the MLG era, is like, oh, people play Young Link versus Ness, winner semis at the most stacked tournament, right? So, I mean, it was just incredibly funny. When HBox asked for double blind pick, I figured he is very, very, very likely just going to pick, not Puff. But I was like, on the off chance he picks Puff, would I rather play Peach Puff or Young Link versus Ness? Or not Young Link versus whatever character he picked, right? And I came to the conclusion that, like, I believe I could win against his secondaries with Young Link, while I don't really think I realistically could beat his Puff with Peach. Especially because I hadn't practiced the matchup whatsoever since Apex 2010. Probably not a single match in, like, singles, right? So yeah, I figured I should stick with Young Link, and hopefully whatever secondary he might bring out, I'll win, right? But it was funny because he, like, celebrated that he won the double blind, which he technically did because that's what he was hoping for, right? But I was like, Ness is somehow even worse than Young Link, right? I'm playing a bad character, and now you're playing an even worse character. It's like, where he's going down the list. It was just so funny. So I think like his little celebration beforehand, it was like why I raised my arm after the second game. I also think HBox is like, he threw me into the Shy Guys very close to the end of game 2, and I'm pretty sure I only survived due to the Shy Guys. And he was like dropping the controller. So I kind of like, I don't know, like just raised the arm. It was like being silly back. I don't know. I mean, we've never had like bad blood, but it was just like, I don't know, a silly and funny interaction, I guess.
And he opted to go back to the Jigglypuff pick in Game 3, eventually falling to Armada's Young Link 3-1 in Game 4. The saga of Armada's Young Link versus Hungrybox came to a nail-biting conclusion at EVO 2014. The two faced off twice at this tournament, once in winners semis and again in losers finals. Hungrybox has been desperately searching for an answer to his character Counterpick, pulling out Falco in winners bracket as well as showcasing Hungry Fox in losers. However, it was ultimately his Jigglypuff that triumphed over Armada in both of these sets, beating him 2-1 in winners and 3-2 in losers en route to a second place finish. It seemed for the first time being that Armada needed to do some soul searching to find another character that could get the job done against this particular player and this particular matchup. In order to find the answer to this problem, we needed to take a look at a couple of sets not between Armada and Hungrybox, but between Armada and Leffen. Beast 5 took...
Alright, so this wasn't like really included in the video, and I mean, maybe they were not the most like important sets to look at, but we actually did play a few times in between the sets we just saw. So before EVO 2014, we actually did play at CEO only a few weeks prior. I think it was like 2 weekends prior, where we played in both winners and losers, and then like a weekend or so before that, we played at MLG. MLG, I won 3-0 in Young Link Puff. And then at CEO, TLDR, I won primarily playing Young Link versus his Fox, right? So we already saw like a little bit more of like both sides. Young Link Puff, 3-0, CEO, primarily winning like with Young Link versus Fox. I think I won like 4 games with Young Link. Yeah, 4 games with Young Link against the Fox, and I dropped 1. So HBox was like testing around at that time as well. With EVO 2014, I think the main things that changed was like he realized like up air was like actually just like very good to use against Young Link's down air. He just straight up wins, and he hadn't realized that prior, if I recall correctly. This is many years ago, so forgive me if I'm wrong about that. And if I remember another thing, he was just way better at not dying, like using his shield, staying more grounded in some scenarios. Bomb downers was just like way harder to find, and he also got way better at edge guarding Young Link. So all these things combined shifted it from my favor to his favor. I will also say that even like I did drop Young Link after EVO 2014, right? But I don't think even today that it's like a bad matchup for Young Link. Me and HBox actually both very early on, even before HBox started beating me in that matchup, we were both like, we believe Puff has an edge, but it's not like bad for Young Link. We both kind of like were in agreement, Puff wins, but I knew the matchup better. But then of course, as not only he got better in the matchup, Puff was like his solo character, right? He only played Puff, and I only played Young Link against Puff, right? And it was, you know, not many Puff players really wanted to play the matchup due to how boring it was. Like, I remember before EVO 2014, I tried to get Nuge King to practice the matchup with me, and he was like, nah, you're going to win anyway. This matchup is way too boring, so you'll have to find someone else. I was like, thank you, Jason. Thank you. Then I lost. No, but on a serious note, so I think even today, like, Young Link probably could still, like, find the matchup. But, like, with how little I played the character relative to how much he played Puff, it was not worth it from that perspective all of a sudden. Because it was only meant to be against one player in the world. So, yeah, that's pretty much what it came down to. I think if someone was, like, solo dedicated to Young Link and was, like, you know, understanding as much about the game as, like, Sane or Jmook, I absolutely think you could take sets with Young Link against Puff. Absolutely. It's just, like, it was going to be hard for me to do that since I only played Young Link against one player.
Placed in Sweden during the weekend of January 11 in 2015. Grand finals of this tournament saw the two top Swedes face off. Leffen was able to eke out a 3-2 victory over Armada's Peach, a shocking reversal of the momentum Armada showed just a month prior at Beauty 9, where he 3-0'd Leffen convincingly in Grand Finals. Fast forward 2 weeks to Paragon Orlando 2015, to what may be one of the most iconic sets in Melee history. Armada tried the Fox out against Hungrybox in winner's bracket to no avail, falling to the Puff player in a close 3-2. He then faced off against Leffen in losers' quarters of Paragon Orlando, a match where the loser would end their tournament run in 5th place. In Game 1, Armada went Peach, and Leffen beat the brakes off of him, almost 4-stalking the Peach and making it clear that he was more ready than ever for the matchup. Armada then made the choice to swap characters to Fox, facing Leffen in the Ditto and trying out a new character counterpick against Leffen's own Space Animal. Game 2 went about as well as the first game did, with Leffen almost 4-stalking Armada's Fox on Dreamland. What happened after, however, is what has cemented this set in history as one of the all-time greats in Melee.
My case
Armada
sleeping.
took a few moments to compose himself before beginning Game 3 and absolutely annihilating Leffen, 4-stalking him and putting fear into the Swedish Fox main's heart. Game 4 was essentially a repeat of Game 3, with Leffen barely avoiding a double 4-stalk. Game 5 has many what-ifs, with the conclusion of the set coming down to a phantom jab from Armada to secure a victory for Leffen. Although he didn't win the set, Paragon Orlando was proof of concept for a new character in Armada's arsenal to use against Leffen, and most importantly to pull out against Hungrybox. All of this culminates in their grand final set.
Yeah, okay, so there are quite a few things to go over here. So, okay, first against HBox, we did see me play Peach in Game 1, right? Basically, my idea was like, it had been a lot of years, since I last tested Peach against Puff, and I actually did practice some Peach versus Puff before Paragon. I didn't think it was worth it, but considering the amount of years it had been, I wanted to, like, test it one more time, right? I wanted to see if, like, I felt I was wrong about it, and maybe I could make it work. So I did practice Peach Puff a bit before that tournament, but after, that one game, essentially, I was like, I don't think it's going to be worth it. I don't think I'm going to win this set with Peach, and basically Apex 2015 was going to come up about 2 weeks later, I believe. So even if I lost at Paragon Orlando, it was more like I wanted to see if Peach Puff maybe could be a viable option for Apex 2015. And basically I came to the conclusion I don't think it's going to be worth it. I tested Fox, and Fox Puff I had not really practiced, but it was working surprisingly well, and I was almost reverse 3-0ing HBox with Fox. And then 2 of the games were on Dreamland as well, right? Honestly, that was not even allowed to go back to, but neither of us realized it at the time. Because he won Dreamland Game 1, right? But I mean, it was both our faults. Neither of us recognized the mistake as it was happening. So yeah, after that, it was like, all right, I should just have played Fox. Another thing that I actually should include here, that one of the reasons I didn't pick up Fox initially was I think I got influenced and impacted by like how much, commentators, players, they were always talking about like how hard it was to play Fox versus HBox, because he was like, essentially is destroying all the Foxes except for Mangoes, right? But the thing is, it was more like he was just way better than all these Foxes. So, I mean, I think that kind of like impacted me, at least subconsciously. But then when I played him myself for the first time, I was like, all right, this is the character I should just play, right? Then against Leffen, I did start with Peach as well in that set. I was actually thinking of going Fox from the get-go against Leffen at Paragon Orlando, because warming up with Peach before the Leffen set, I was like, I really felt like my Peach was playing trash, and I was like, maybe I should just go Fox. But then when it came down to it, I was like, I'm just going to pick Peach anyway. Comfort pick, right? But then I ended up picking Fox, and part of this was as well, like at Beast 5, of course, we played PAL instead of NTSC. So, Fox not, as good in PAL as he is in NTSC. But then also, like, at Beast 5, we played in PM as well. And I know PM is not exactly the same as Melee, but I played Fox against Leffen in PM and beat him in the Fox Ditto. So that also kind of like, you know, sparked the idea that maybe I should just play Fox, right? And then even though I didn't win against Left-Handed Paragon Orlando, it was still like, you know, it looked very promising. And then, of course, similar to HBox, I played Left-Handed Apex 2015, and I beat both of them with Fox. And then, yeah, the rest is history, of course.
The EVO 2015. Armada pulled the Fox out against Hungrybox, taking no chances with Peach, Young Link, or any other character. Although we'd seen Armada's Fox in a grand finals against a Jigglypuff before at Genesis 1, this time the Swede Spacey was more than ready to compete against the unstoppable force that is H-God. Armada came prepared at EVO 2015, only dropping 4 games over the entire tournament. Although he would remain primarily a Peach player until his retirement, Armada kept the Fox in his pocket, pulling it out most notably for every meeting with Leffen and any Jigglypuff player in his path to victory. From 2015 until he hung up his controller in 2018, Armada went 26-14 in sets against Hungrybox in the Fox Puff matchup, a character that for a while had him questioning how well he could perform at the top level of the game, and digging deeper into the tier list to solve. While Armada's decision to pick up Fox for specific players and matchups is the pinnacle of character counterpick meta in the history of Melee, many notable players over the years have picked up a second main, used character-specific counterpicks, or have even gone for player-specific counterpicks. Some examples include PPMD picking up Marth, Plup switching to Sheik but still opting to use his Samus against Leffen at EVO 2015, and Axe using a slew of characters against Ice Climbers. Be on the lookout for future videos covering those players and their character choices. What has been your favorite character?
Alright, yeah, no, that's gonna be it for this video. Interesting one. I hope I could provide you all with quite a bit of insight regarding my character picks, you know, a little bit storylines, my way of thinking, and I mean, of course, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, both mine and also to the original creators of this video. It was well done. I enjoyed it. And yeah, thank you all for watching. Peace.